Good morning. So I'm going to walk you through a little overview of using one of the apps that we have available to us, as well as our students, through Microsoft 365. So the first step is to log into your ePassport. Once you're in your ePassport, you're going to go to your Office 365 tile. You will click on that. Okay. Once you're in Office 365, you've probably seen it two different ways. Sometimes it pops up just like this page looks right here with all the apps sort of listed. Other times it might be your email that you see, and you have to come up here to this top left menu and click on that for all your apps to appear for you. Either way, the program that we're going to be working with today is called Class Notebook. So we're going to go ahead and click on Class Notebook. Okay, so Class Notebook is a digital notebook, essentially. It's just like the traditional notebook that students have for your class with the different tabs where they may label it for notes, class notes, graded assignments, quizzes, tests, or other handouts. So just envision that you take that traditional notebook that students typically will have for your class, but you make it digital for them, basically. But there's also a really unique feature in doing the notebook here through Microsoft is that you can actually create a collaborative or collaboration space for students to work on a project together, and they can provide input and insight and really just add to whatever sort of project that you create for them in this space. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through a quick overview of all the different features, but specifically, we really want to focus in on that collaboration piece of this tool that may be something that you want to implement in your class with your students. Okay, so when you first go in, this is exactly what you would see. You have these four icons, welcome to OneNote class notebook. You want to go ahead and start by creating a notebook. You will later have the option to do any sort of edits that you need as well. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and name our class. So seeing that you have 6 different classes, you want to create 6 different notebooks so you can organize each class period separately. So that way, if you just want to access a group of kids in period 1, you have a unique notebook just for them. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is to use the name of your course and just add period 1, 2, 3, and so on to it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and name my class Lunch and Learn Demo. Okay, so that's going to be the name of my class. Demo 1, because I already created a demo, so I'm going to change it up a little bit. All right, so here are the different things that you can do with Class Notebook. There's 3 unique uses for it. There is, like I already mentioned, the collaboration space, and this is a really neat feature where the students and teachers can both edit the content. So if you give students a graphic organizer to work on and you want them to complete it as a group, you upload that graphic organizer and the students will collaborate in that space to work on that graphic organizer, or it may be a project of any sort. So just remember that the collaboration space is actually used for students to be able to work together, and they can actually make any sort of edits as needed. The content library is really what it sounds like. The content library is just a space for teachers to publish any sort of materials or handouts or notes, instructions to a project. And when you upload your documents into Content Library, the teacher can do the edits, the students cannot. It is view only, so they can see it. They can't make any sort of edits to it. However, if they move something from your content library into their collaboration space, then they can actually make edits to that assignment. Student Notebook. Student Notebook is the actual notebook that I described earlier that you organize for your students. And this is a private notebook that only you and your students can see. So for example, if you give them independent work, so this is not going to be in the collaboration space. This is going to be in the student notebook section of OneNote. If you create an independent assignment and each of your students completes it here in this digital notebook, then you can go in and you can view their work. You can give them feedback and grade it pretty quickly through the program, but only they can see it individually and you can see it. None of the other students can see the content in that student's notebook. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go on. I just wanted to give you a little description of each of these different components of the program. All right, so here is where you can actually input another teacher's email or name to have access to this notebook. For example, if I'm collaborating with another teacher of the same content, we're in a PLC, we're both going to upload content to this notebook. Maybe I'm going to create a quiz and the other teacher is going to create the study guide that goes with the quiz. So both of us would have access to it, and we can both upload and make edits in the program by having the access. So this is optional. You can have your own notebook. You can add teachers if you want to do it as a PLC. Either way, you can just skip over it for now. And you can always take people out. Any students you add in, you can take out. Any teachers you add in, you can take out. Or if you get new students added to your class, you can always add them in at a later time. Now, what are your students' names? This is where you would go ahead and type in your student names. And remember, you're doing this by class, so you only want to load in the students' names for that particular period. So if I was working on biology period 1, those are the students that are unique to that class that I would go ahead and type their names in. I'm just going to look up a name just for the demo. So if I look up, if I just start typing in the last name, okay, let's do Smith. If I type in Smith, I'll be able to see all the students that have that last name, and it'll make it easy for me to find my student. Okay, and it says type in your student names separated by semicolon to add them to this notebook. Once I add all my student names, remember our students have access to Microsoft, so they may need you to show them how to access it through their ePassport if they haven't used it before. But when you create a course and you add your students' names, they're going to get an email alert that they have a notebook created for them for your course, which they can access through Microsoft. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click next. Okay, without adding any names right now. This is how you can actually organize your students' private space, meaning for that student notebook component, what do you want them to use it for? How do you want it organized? Very much like their traditional notebook that has a different tabs. What do you want for these different tabs to look like and to be in the digital notebook? Will you use it for handouts? Will you use it for class notes? You have to ask yourself, obviously first is, how do I want to use the notebook? and what is it that I want to have the students organize in the notebook. At which point you can uncheck or check whichever ones that apply to you. You can even add more categories if there are any that you want that are not listed here. Okay? Those are just suggested ones. Next. All right, so now we're going to see a preview of what the teacher notebook looks like and what the student notebook looks like. This right now is the teacher notebook. Okay, there's the name of my class period, which for me was just Lunch and Learn Demo. I have my collaboration space, and this is where I would add content that I want my students to collaborate and work on together. This is my content library, and this is going to be where I'm going to upload different documents and materials for my students to be able to navigate through and to have access to. And again, this will have like a list of titles under it once I actually upload some assignments in here. And also what I'll be able to see once I add my students are a list of all their names for each class period right here in this left column. I'm going to click on the tabs right here that are in different colors, which are not going to work for me right now because I haven't created the notebook. But what will happen is you will have access to these different tabs here on the top that will be for your collaboration, your content, and essentially what you're going to be able to see is all your individual students' notebooks if you use it for that purpose, to go in and to collect work from them and then to give them feedback. The student view, we're going to go ahead and click on student view. And here's what the student view will look like. They also have the collaboration space. They have the content library. Once I put some things in there, you'll be able to see that there are titles listed under the content library. And then we have the personal space, the private space. And that is where we have these different categories that I left alone earlier, which you can rename. And this is where the student will come in and do a handout. If they complete a handout in the student section group, that's what you'll be able to see and grade for them. And same thing, they'll be able to click on these different tabs on the top that are currently not active. Okay, let's go ahead and create. All right, so once I do this, my students are going to get an email alert, which is going to let them know that they have a notebook. And if they open their OneNote, they can go to their OneNote. Okay, I may have to do this differently. If I go to back to my Microsoft home page, and if I go to my OneNote, okay, and I go to my notebooks right up here, okay, then I can see that I have notebooks in here. Students will also be able to go to shared with me to find the notebooks that you created, the notebook that you created for your course that you shared with them. So once they want to access their notebook, they will go to OneNote, they will go to shared with me, and they will be able to access their notebook. Okay, so I know this was a lot. You are going to be provided with this video to watch again on your own time if you want to go back over it and follow the steps to create your own notebooks for your classes. We're also going to provide you with a hard copy printout of step-by-step instructions on how to do everything that I just demonstrated for you. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and shift our focus to actually practice collaborating in the notebook.